to the World Standards Day, sir. World Standard Day is observed annually on October 14th all over the world to create the awareness about the significance of the standardization to the global economy among the regulators, consumers, and industry. Standards have been important to every individual in the world, and we all have been raised with this concept. World Standards Day 2021 is also a means of paying tribute to the collaborative efforts. Thousands of experts who develop the voluntary technical agreements that are published in international standards. According to the International Organization Standards, the theme for World Standards Day 2021 is Standards for the Sustainable Development of Goals, a shared vision for the better future. It is customary to introduce the chief guest of Sri Brahmareddy Garu FIE, Engineer B. Brahmareddy FIE, alumni, born 1955, AME Section A and B, postgraduate in Computer Science and MBA. Fellow IETE, Fellow IOA, and Fellow IIT Arbitration, LMIA, LMISTE, and LMEV, MIA-ING, MITEA, and MISOC. Presently, the Council Member IEA and Board of Governors Member of ISKI, Hyderabad. The Chairman-elect IEA, Telangana State Center for the session 21-23, 2 decades experience of the radar system engineering in IAF, 2 decades in banking and financing technologies, organized IEA, IEC and administrative reforms at headquarters as Secretary and Director General IEA, Technical Director Toshiba American, our Senior Executive PSB, visited 16 countries. As Honor Secretary APSC IEA instrumental in mobilizing the fund, mobilizing the building fund, where we have the new building, sir, organized by international FEIAP national seminars and conferences. As a Honor Secretary APSC IEA, previously member of July jury of IEA Industry Excellence Awards, Chairman IEA AITC and Chairman SPIC, member RDC, ICC, NSC, and Assessment Management Committees. On behalf of the Telangana State Center IEA and on my own behalf, I once again extend a hot welcome to all of you to this important event. Thank you. Thank you, Narayan sir. So now I am requesting our chief guest, Engineer Brahmareddy sir, Chairman-elect IETSC, to deliver his speech. Sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Professor Ramana Naigaru, Chairman of the Telangana State Center.
Welcome,
It's a great honor for me to invite me. Of course, it was a very short period. We decided around 2:30 that I'll be the chief guest for and keynote speaker for today. And really, it is a privilege for me to and pleasure to deliver a small lecture on World Standards Day 2021. And World Standards Day is usually celebrated on 14th of October every year. And it is actually known as the International Standards Day. And this proposal actually was made in 1956 in London, but in practically the first celebration was done in only 1970. And this day of World Standards Day, actually it is paying a tribute to the experts and scientists who involved themselves in the developing standards within the standards development organizations like the International Organization for Standardization, that is known as ISO, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, that ASME, and the International Electrotechnical Commission, IEC, Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, that is IEEE, International Telecommunication Union, ITU, and the Internet Engineering Task Force, that is IETF. The main aim of the celebration of this is to increase the awareness of the importance of the global standardization among the consumers. That is how, and the theme for the year 2021 is our shared vision for a better world, that is standards for sustainable goals. Our shared vision for a better world is today's theme. And the message is given by the one president of ISO and the president of Howlin Jiao and ITU secretary, Ms. Unibio Shu. All the three, they gave a message saying that the sustainable development goals, which project to address social imbalances, develop a sustainable economy and slow the rate of climatic change and are highly ambitious. To reach them will require the cooperation of many public and private partners and the use of all available tools, including international standards and the conformity assessment. The intense battle against the persistent global pandemic revealed the absolute necessity of addressing the sustainable development goals in the inclusive way to strengthen our societies, making them more resilient and more equitable. It is the pursuit. Standards are more relevant than ever. The entire standard system is built on collaboration, and it is testament to the power of the cooperation and the belief that we are stronger than the sum of the other parts. So by working together, we are empowering people with real world solution to face the sustainability challenges head on. It is in this spirit that we are engaging in a multi-year World Standards Day journey that shows the many ways in which international standards contribute to the success of the sustainable development goals. And this is the message which has been delivered by the three of the ISO, ITU, and IEC president and secretary respectively. They said they stand united to work together to accelerate the 2030 agenda with the standards for the sustainable development goals and shared vision for a better future and better world. So now what is standards? What is world standards? So if you take what is the standard and what standard is, suppose for example, I take an example of electricity. If you take electricity, any global trade that manufactures an electrical component, a plug, or anything related to electric, it should have a standard. And how that standards are fixed and who fixes, and that is what the agencies which we were earlier said that IEEE, ITU, and in that is International Organization for Standard, that is what we even in educational institution and other even companies, they obtain ISO 9000 90001 or or 90002. Those companies which take the standards that become the actual world standards, and everybody has to sincerely follow those standards. And as far as the electricity is concerned, and we say there is no standard mains voltage throughout the world. If you take in the world, the voltage is different. In India, ours is 230 volts. When you go to US, it is 115 volts, and the frequency of the cycle is different. And at the ours is 50 cycle, there's is 60 cycle, and also the number of times the current changes direction per second, that in the frequency is not same everywhere. Moreover, the electrical plugs and sockets are also different in different countries. Those seemingly unimportant differences, but however, have some unpleasant consequences. Most of the appliances brought overseas simply cannot be connected to the wall outlets at home of our India in our country or any other country, any other different countries. So there are only two ways to solve this problem. You just cut off the original plug top and replace it with the one that is the standard in our country or in your country, whatever country it is gone. That is how you buy an unhandy and ugly adapter, but you have to again cut that adapter and add an adapter of that nation where they use the standard. For example, the Americans use a two pin plug, whereas the Indian and round type the electrodes what are used, two electrodes for the plug is rounded, a flat, whereas in India we use a round 3-pin plug. That means there it is the earth is within the 2-pin plug, whereas in India a separate earthing is to be provided. So that the standard is differing in the, though we say is the world standards, in the standard is differing from country to country, and that is how the, if you buy, it cannot be adapted from one country to another country directly. It will be only a local plug, or local plug has to be used for the foreign appliances. In many such cases, it's also of the problem is solved, because it does not help with the positive voltage disparity. If the voltage is also different, and the plug is also different, so hence since it has to be adapted to the new different voltage, an adapter is being used. So, for example, a 120 volt electrical appliance is designed for use in North America or Japan. It will provide nice fireworks display, complete with sparks and smoke, if plugged into European socket, because the European socket is just the Indians, we are following the standards that is used in the Europe countries. So, so this will be 3-pin plug, and hence that will be the moment the plug is put, there will be a short circuit and there will be fireworks display. So it goes on without saying that the lack of single voltage, frequency, and the globally standardized plugs entail many extra costs for the manufacturers and consumers, and moreover, they increase the burden on the environment. So if we check out all plug types around used in the world, there are currently 15 types of domestic electrical outlet plugs are in use in the worldwide, each of which has been assigned a letter by the US Department of Commerce International Trade Administration, starting with A and moving through the alphabet. These letters are completely arbitrary. They do not actually mandate anything. But but when you come to our comparison to Indian, mainly the plugs used in USA, Canada, Mexico, and Japan, they're type A with 2 pins, not grounded, 15 amps, almost always 100 to 127 volts, and socket compatibility with his plug type A. Whereas when mainly used in the country of Mexico, that is a 3 pins, grounded, 15 amps, almost always 100 to 127 volts, with a compatible socket with the plug types both A and B. And when you come another different country like in Europe and South Africa, America and Asia, it is 2 pins, not grounded, 2.5 amps and 10 amps and 16 amps, almost always it is 220 to 240 volts range. So the socket has to be compatible with plug type C. That means the same plug which you are using in India cannot be, when you go to US, you can't use the same plug. Similarly, an instrument you buy from the electrical instrument from the US, or you can't use in our country until unless an adapter is has to be added, an additional cost for this one. What do we need to use the appliances abroad? So when we go abroad, the difference between a plug adapter and an electric converter. So the fact is that then you have to buy another converter which converts this 230 volts into 115 or 120 volts to suit to the need in the voltage level of that country. So that is how an extra this. That means there is no standard. The standard is differing from, though it is said international standards are world standard, the standards are from country to country is differing because of the. So this makes the manufacturer very burdensome. He has to make different different plugs and different sockets for different countries. Again, if he makes it is suitable to the US, then you have to again buy an bear additional cost and buy the another adapter or converter to make to be used in India. Similar way, if it is made manufactured in India for Indian conditions or the countries like India, Europe, and other countries, then it won't be suitable to the flux that is that is the sockets used in the country like US. So hence a plug adapter with the converter has to be again purchased in the US, and that or it should be carried from here. So since a travel adapter does not convert the voltage, and when you have to be sure that your appliance can be deal with the electricity coming out of the socket, so you need to check your DC voltage always. What is the input? Whether it is 100 to 240 volts, that means your device is multi-voltage, and that it will work with any voltage between 100 volts and 240 volts. Luckily, many travel gadgets such as laptops or phone chargers are multi or dual voltage. So you will only need a travel adapter. If the device is single voltage, that is input is 120 volts, and you are traveling to Europe, where the mains voltage is like in India is 230 volts, and you will need to step down the voltage, enter the converter or the transformer. So that is how a different converters or different transformers are being manufactured or used in different countries. That means, though that is because of the disparity in the manufacture of the plugs and this thing, the standards are not matching. So these organizations like ISO, they have decided, and this must be the entire world should use the same standards. For example, we go back to the mobiles. When you buy a mobile of iPhone from the US, when you bring it to Hyderabad for use in our place, you have to rush to Abid's Jagdish market for conversion into the to adapt into the Indian. That means the standard what they are maintaining there, though when it comes to India, because of the our system of electricity production, so it doesn't match, and the frequency, everything. So you need to again go for a spend extra money to convert that phone, and it may properly work and may not properly work. So that means, though these organization international organization for standardization and IEC, all these things, they are saying that it should be one standard all over the world, but still it is not achieved. That is what the standards for sustainable development goal. So that means it should be the same same this thing, but that is not possible, as our power generation is different from the what is generated in the countries like North America, Mexico, and other countries. And now another example, I take a cars. Why do some countries drive on right and others on the left side of the road? So if you go back, about 35% of the world population that drives on the left side, like in US and Canada and other Italy and all those countries, there the driver is on the left side and the steering is on the left side. Whereas the countries like India, British, mostly British colonies, and the rest of the world, that is all on the right. Rest of the world use a right hand driving or right side the steering. So that means the car manufactured in US cannot be transported to or sold in India or brought to India and cannot be used because here the overseas right hand. Almost everybody who traveled on the left side of the road, that is most of the sensible option for feudal and violent societies. But most people are right-handed. Swordsmen prefer to keep the left in order to have their right arm nearer to an opponent and their scabbed further from him. Moreover, it reduces the chance of the scabbard and hitting the other people. Further, a right-handed person finds it very easy to mount a horse from the left side of the horse, and it would be very difficult to do otherwise if wearing a sword which would be worn on the left. It is safer to mount and dismount towards the side of the road rather than the middle of the traffic. So if one mounts on the left, then the horse should be ridden on the left side of the road. If you take an example of a horse rider, and in the late 1700s, however, teamsters in France and other United States began hauling farm products in big wagons pulled by several pairs of horses. These wagons and no driver seat. Instead of the driver sat on the left rear horse, so he could keep his right arm free to lash the team since he was sitting on the left. So he naturally wanted a left hand. He was comfortable that with the left hand drive, and that is how the cars are manufactured in France, United States, Canada, and all. The left, the steering on the left side. And if you take a country like Russia, it is noted that widespread custom for traffic in Russia is to pass on the right. But it was only in 1752 that Empress Elizabeth officially issued an edict for traffic to keep the right. So in addition, the French Revolution of 1789 gave a huge impetus to right-hand travel in Europe. The fact is, before the revolution, the aristocracy traveled on the left of the road, forcing the peasantry over to the right. But after the storming of the Bastille and the subsequent events, aristocrats preferred to keep a low profile and joined the peasants on the right. So an official keep right rule was introduced in Paris in 1794, more or less parallel to Denmark, and where driving on the right hand been made compulsory in the year 1793. That is how the history that the cars, how the right-handed driving has come. So if you say the list of this list of left and right driving countries around the world, all the British colonies and are right-handed driving, and all those, whereas United States of America, Latin American countries, and some parts of the European countries like France, they all have the left-handed habituated for left are comfortable for left-hand side of the driving. So the cars were built such a way to suit that the country's needs. But when it has come to bring a car from the US to the India, the car, it cannot be driven. Conversely, driving on the left side of the road usually implies that the driver's seat is on the right hand side of the car. This car. So hence it will be easy for some countries to convert the left-handed side driving into the right-handed. So suppose if Britain gave up the driving on the left, so it is perfectly possible for a country to switch from one side of the road to the other side. In the 60s and 70s, Sweden, Iceland, Nigeria, Ghana all swapped their sides without much problem. But it is Britain ever going to drive on the right side of the road. It seems highly improbable, but let us go with it for now. Let us assume that the United Kingdom or the other left driving country for that matter is going to flip from right to left to right. So driving and what are the merits of making is if it has to be switched over from what are the pros and cons, and during driving the right would bring left driving countries into the line with most of the rest of the world, which would eliminate a lot of traffic confusion and dangerous situations when going abroad. Driving on the right would make trips to right driving countries easier when taking or hiring a car. So vehicles with the steering wheels on the left are often cheaper because they are mass produced. Right hand drive cars are produced in smaller numbers and require additional engineering time, so they are bound to be more expensive. That is the reason why in mainland Europe cars are a fair bit cheaper than in the UK or Ireland. And what are the if the in the pros and cons, the demerits of switching over or making the switch from one right to left or left to right, and it costs changing road marks, signs, rebuilding some motorway junctions, replacing bus bays, all etc. That will be extra costs. So in 1969, the financial burden of making switch was calculated by the British government to be more than to be 264 million pounds, about 3.4 pound billion today, approximately equal to the 5.6 US dollar billion. But that would have now been seen as a ridiculously conservative estimate. Since that time, the road network and the level of sophistication of the network and its controlling infrastructure has grown enormously. A couple of years ago, the United Kingdom's Automobile Association calculated the cost simply changing Britain's road signs from miles to kilometers would have been costed them around 750 million pounds. So initially all cars would still have the steering wheel on the right, so drivers would find themselves further away from the center of the road. So immediately after the switch, there could be a safety problem. Driving habits are well entrenched, and it might take some time to get used to a new arrangement. This could be particularly true for elderly road users who are less able to adapt to changed conditions. All buses would have to be rebuilt, or else they would have to drop off the passengers in the middle of the road. So how does it works? If the road marking and roadside signs would have to be switched to the other side of the road, but ready in advance of the day of the change. They would have to remain covered until the day of the change. One way, streets would have to be reconfigured. Traffic lights with filters would have to be changed, and about 1 in 10 motorway junctions would need to be dug up and rebuilt since they are asymmetric or incomplete. Slip roads that were decelerating lanes would suddenly be used for accelerating. So their lengths would need to be extended and vice versa. So the switch would have to be made not during the traffic daytime, and it has to be in the nights. And all private traffic would have to be banned for several hours in order to allow workers to uncover. So these are the new road and uncover the new road signs. So immediately after the change, the speed limit in urban areas would have to be lowered for a couple of weeks as a safety precaution. So for some motorists, a restraining program would be needed to familiarize them with anti-clockwise roundabouts, left-hand turns which cut across the oncoming traffic. So this all will be demerits of switching one side to the other side. Even if we travel, and most of us who must have traveled to US and having international license, and it will be, though we are having international, for lack of practice, it is very difficult to drive in US by us. And similarly, a person who drives in US and comes to India or Hyderabad, it will be very difficult for him to accustom and adjust to the driving conditions of our Indian cities. So the these international organization for standardization has recommended for the standards, but at world standards cannot be maintained in certain cases, as this will differ and it cannot be sustainable, because the cost involved in, as we have been discussed above, about the merits and demerits and pros and cons of switching over. This will result in it becomes a pandemonium on the roads. So it will be big confusion, and to avoid all that, the standards, every country is making its own standards, is following the standards of as already are being used in the since decades. And likewise in the car also, if you see in our country, we are now they started marking IND, and then by followed by the number plate. Earlier it was not like that. Simply we were writing TS07 AP, some number like that. But nowadays, if you see the government, and they are providing a number plate in whichever new vehicle is purchased, the RTA authority, RTA itself, they are giving the number plate. If you find is IND is India, like Belgium, BG, like country code. So there are the country codes have been allotted to each country by the international standards, that is known as international car code standards. So like that, so you have certain things you have to follow. All those are world standards which are provided. So like likewise, the number plate, license plate, all these things. So if you, and stickers also, even if stickers are used on the cars now, manufactured by the and mostly the, other than the Maruti Suzuki, most cars which are received from the uh, imported from Australia and other country, if you see how their marking is, sticker is done. The sticker is done according to the world standards. That is how, even if the vehicle is manufactured in India also, they have to use the same standard as it is, as used by the world world standards prescribed by this. So that is how the cars, electricity or mobile or anything that is has to follow. If the theme has to be have a better future, and that is what this year's theme is, that sustainable development goals, that standards for sustainable development goals for a shared for vision for a better future. So if a better future and better world is required, and the entire world must follow the standards, whether it is manufactured in India or it manufactured. For example, certain, especially the antenna systems, if the antenna is to be manufactured for a TV, whether it is manufactured in the US or it manufactured in India, the standard maintained for the manufacture must be same, and that is how the world this this world standard day is celebrated to those private or scientists and who are making this and having agreement for the have been for in their honor as a tribute. Today we all over the world the is celebrated as world's standard day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very happy, sir. Highly appreciable speech, sir. And thank you, Brahman sir. So now I request Anjay Garu is a meeting, sir. Busy. I request sir Anjay Garu Munna line lo. I'm requesting Professor Radhakrishna Garu propose vote of thanks, sir. Professor Radhakrishna Garu. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to all.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
I am Professor G. Radhakrishna, Joint Secretary of the Institute of Engineers, Telangana Center. I am very glad to propose vote of thanks for the World Standards Day. First of all, Engineer R. Brahmareddy FIE, Chairman-elect and Chief Guest of the today's program, and Professor Ramana Nayak, Chairman, FIE, Chairman, and after illuminating lecture by the chief guest on this day, I also thank all the past chairman, secretary, past secretaries, and our secretary Anjaya, council members, committee members for sparing their time and attending the program at short notice. I also thank chief guest for who has taken pains to prepare in a 2 hours time. He was told to make by 3:30 p.m. and the lecture is at 5. So I also thank others, including IAS staff, for making arrangements at short notice, and electronic media for unstinted support of coverage. And the World Standards Day is very, very important day. And I have what Brahmareddy told, that Mexico, Sweden, US, Europe, all different things they are following, and had been all these countries except Mexico, Europe, and except Mexico and Germany, all other places I also went. I used to carry adapters. Otherwise, there was a problem. Or I have to ask the hotel fellow to supply the adapter to switch on or charge my iPhone and all that. So really, the world standard is different than Indian standard. We go by tolerance of 5 or 10 plus or minus 10% in most of the cases. But whereas the world standard is 5 ppm, that is 5 parts per million. Their standard is that. So whenever we manufacture any item for export purpose, we have to manufacture to that standard. Otherwise, and it should be marked as ISI or CIE, that is European standard. So CE, they call it. If you see the mark in some of the things, CE is marked. CE is certified European. So like that, any item manufactured in India has to go strict test. So I give you a small example. One time, Japan has under 100 pieces of metal from India. And those people told, you can have in 1,000 pieces, you can have only 2 pieces. We will not meet the standard. So Japanese have made 1,000 pieces as per the standard given specification and sent 2 pieces separately packed. We don't understand what is these 2 pieces you want. So they could not understand. They have made all 1,000 pieces as per specification. Anyhow, you wanted 2 pieces, we are sending you 2 pieces which doesn't meet specification. So that is the thinking of their Japanese people. And the improvements are very, very high and standards are very, very high. It is very difficult to meet those standards in India. But people are trying, patents are being made. So I hope that we will meet those standards in future. Thank you and happy judgment to all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very good vote of thanks. And thank you very much, sir. Let us go for Janagana.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Jai Telangana.
Yes, sir.
Janagana.
Yes, sir.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा। विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा। तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे। गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
Jai Hind. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Happy Dasara, all of you, sir. Happy Dasara, all of you. Tomorrow we meet on student board.
Happy Dasara.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Only Repu, happy. Raikumar, sir. Thank you. Andariki Dasara Subhakankshlu.